క్రీస్తు
So it's good to be with you and to experience the joy in the Lord that you have and the Spirit of God moving in your midst. That's very wonderful. I think it would be good for each of us today to consider how God is calling you. And so it might be the first thing to do is to turn to the person next to you and say, God is calling you. That's an important message, isn't it? Because this is the time when we consider Jesus, the Good Shepherd, who calls us. Now, you'll notice in the Gospel, in fact, I think I read the wrong Gospel, it doesn't matter. You'll notice that in the Gospel on the Shepherd's Sunday, we can see how Jesus called forth his people, each one of us. And the image he uses is of a shepherd. Now, you have to understand in those days, a shepherd would only have just a few sheep. Maybe he would have, say, 10 or 15 sheep. And he'd be walking through the desert with these sheep. And he knew each of them by name. There was Jenny, and then there was Robbie, and then there was other names like that. He had a pet name for each of his sheep. And so when it came to night time, he would head towards a place where there was an oasis, where there was water. And other people who were shepherds would come as well with their sheep, and they'd light a fire and they'd pen the sheep up together, because this was a place where they could get water overnight. And early in the morning, each shepherd would go to the place where the sheep were penned, and he'd call forth his sheep by name. So the shepherd would come and he'd say, Johnny, come. And Johnny would know the voice of the shepherd, his shepherd, and he would come. It would go like that, and then he'd go off with his sheep for the day. That's the image that Jesus is giving us, that he calls you because he knows your name. And when you hear his call in your heart, you know it is Jesus. And that's why it's important for you to appreciate that he is calling you. And he calls you forth each day. At the beginning of each day, just like with the shepherds of old, he'll be there for you and to lead you into the day. And so it's very important when you wake up in the morning, you don't just listen to the latest that a disc jockey has to say to you, or the latest that you get on your phone or whatever. Why not wake up and hear the voice of the Lord, given to you in Holy Scripture especially? And let the Lord speak to your heart for that day, because he is always calling us further. He has a desire and a plan for each person here. Each one of us, he knows intimately and closely. And he has, as it were, a name for you too. And he wants you to know that. He calls you by name. And you may think that I'm not worthy of this because I'm the sort of person who doesn't quite do it right in my life. But he calls you too. And he will speak to your heart if you allow him. You have to know about sheep, if we continue with that image. Sheep do not have good eyesight. They can't see. But they have very refined hearing, so they can hear. They know the voice of their master. And sometimes you can be like that in life. You may not be able to see very well about what's happening, but you can hear the voice of the Lord leading you forward. This is God's purpose for you. So each day we need to allow the Lord to take us forward, because he's calling you out of great love, and he has a purpose just for you, for each day, but especially as your life unfolds, he has a purpose. You know, some time back, a woman stopped me just after I'd come down from the sanctuary, and she said, "Father, I've got something to tell you." She said, 6 months ago, I decided that I'd finished my life. I'd had enough. All the things that had gone wrong in my life were just too much. And she said, on that day that I chose, I sat down on the couch in my flat, and I closed all the windows and the curtains, and I was about to take the pills that I had saved up for this purpose. And then she said, I felt the Lord was saying something to me. And so she went to get a Bible from the bedroom, and she turned the light on again, and she just let the Bible open up. And it fell on the word from Isaiah, which says, "Do not be afraid, I've redeemed you, I've called you by name, you are mine." And she said, "Father, I couldn't do it anymore. And I heard that you had a healing mass on down in your church." And so she said, I came down to the healing mass. And after the mass, we were invited to come forward for prayer if we wanted prayer. And she said, I came out, and the priest said to me, "What do you want prayer for?" And she said, "For a broken heart." And she said, "Father," he laid his hand on my head, and then I felt the warmth of the love of God pour right through my whole being. And now I have a new purpose, a new reason for living. Now I'm alive in a new way, and I could see that she was. She said, I still have my problems, but now it's better because God has given me the hope that I needed. It's so important, isn't it? The Lord is my shepherd. There is nothing I shall want. Fresh and green are the pastures where he gives me repose. Near restful waters he leads me to revive my drooping spirit. She found the restful waters of the Lord, the shepherd leading her to the pasture that she needed so desperately. And that's what the Lord wants to do with each of us in our lives. No matter what your particular problem is, no matter what your struggle is and the pain of your heart, you know, he knows you. And he will speak to you too, if you allow him to speak to you. Possibly he could be speaking to you right now and touching into your heart and telling you of the depth of his love for you. It's so important, isn't it, that we come to this God who loves us so much. He's given all for our sake. And so we need to have a listening heart. So try and cultivate that in your life, that you listen to the Lord and what he's saying to you personally. Sure, in a homily or something like that, he may be speaking very powerfully to you. But not only here, but at other times too, have a listening ear. That's what it is to be a disciple, with a listening ear. No, and don't be afraid of the Lord. You know, he's laid down his life for you. And when you hear his call upon you, you'll notice that he's not going to lead you into doing these mighty works necessarily, or having lots of possessions and got lots of wealth and the things you might dream of that are going to really bring you happiness. No, he knows you better than that. He knows what you really need. You could have this famous trip around the world that someone gave you and think, well, that's going to solve all my problems. But it won't necessarily. He knows what you need most is his love. And he knows how to bring it to you. He knows how to meet you in your deepest need and to speak to your heart the words that you need to hear especially. And only you need to hear them in this particular time. So don't be afraid. The Lord's there as your shepherd. And we're told in the gospel that the wolf comes. He comes to destroy the sheep. The enemy of our human nature, of course, is Satan. And this image is likened to a wolf that will come to attack the sheep. And you'll find that will happen at times. The wolf will come to attack you in one way or another, to confuse your thinking and lead you away from God and lead you into other places which are desert places where there's no life. But the Holy Spirit is there, and He will lead you to green pastures. The shepherd always takes you to a place where you'll be fed and nourished and strengthened. He's brought you here tonight. I don't know how far you had to drive or to walk to come here tonight, but being here tonight is not something that is accidental. It's purposeful for you. And through this Mass, He will speak to your heart, and He'll allow you to come to know more definitely what He's asking of you at this time in your personal life. So not to be afraid, because we have a shepherd who said to us, I've come that you may have life and have it to the full. God's purpose for you is fullness of life. He wants you to not necessarily be without suffering, but that when you do enter into suffering, you'll find a purpose in it. He wants you always to know your purpose in life. He doesn't want you to go into that place of despair that woman I mentioned to went into because she had lost hope. But He is the Good Shepherd who will lead you to green pastures and give you the drink of life that you need most of all. No, He is like that. And right now, He speaks to you. And He's speaking to me. You know, the first words of that psalm that we read, the Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. That's a powerful statement. Once I read that in a retreat, and I spent the whole retreat just meditating on those words. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. What that means is that He will bring to you the fulfillment of the heart that you long for, the deepest want of your heart. The deepest want of every human heart, of course, is for love. The deepest desire of our hearts is to know that we are loved infinitely and completely and totally. The deepest desire of our heart is for God. And only in God do we find that fulfillment that we long for. And we can look for it in other places, but it doesn't come. There's always an emptiness in the heart. But the Lord is my shepherd, you know. Nothing shall I want, because if I allow Him to lead me to green pastures, if I allow Him to speak to my heart, if I allow Him to affirm me in the depths of my being, if I allow Him to take hold of my life and fill my life with His love, that's what really matters. That He is the Lord of all. And Jesus showed that He is your good shepherd when He went to the cross for our sake. And when He hung on the cross, He thought of you. That might sound strange and unbelievable, but it's true. The Lord has shown that to me, and I'm sure He's shown it to you too. If He hasn't, ask Him to show you that on that cross, He had you in His heart. He died for you, so you would be protected from all the dangers that would have come to you otherwise of a spiritual kind. He died on that cross for you, so you would have a thirst within you that is satiated, that is satisfied. The deepest thirst of your heart is for God. And so let's open our hearts to the Lord and allow Him to speak His word to our heart this night, and allow Him to fill us with His love in a new way as only He can. And bless His holy name.